luckily, we've set everyone up for low expectations by calling it the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast.
That was a smart move by us because everything we do is no budget. Even our lives.
Even our podcast.
Even our podcast is no budget.
Welcome to the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast, presented by Cinema Summit, a podcast about the art of making films, no matter how small the budget. And now, here are your hosts, Alex Darke and Trevor L. Nelson.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is episode 44 of the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Alex Darke.
And I am Trevor L. Nelson, and today we are going to be talking about creating the perfect post station. But first, Alex, what are we drinking?
Coors Light.
Of course.
No mystery here.
Yeah, what do you guys want from us?
Although we are on track to getting an actual ice machine, maybe.
Oh, man.
If Trevor's Fixie McUppin skills are...
If that's what you're calling them, then we're doomed for failure. Fixie McUppins. Yes, we are ordering some parts from China, and we're going to try and fix this thing. Larry's a wonderful company broke the ice machine and didn't want to fix it, so they have more dispendable income than we do, which I don't know how. Yeah. But so I figured out what I think might be the problem.
And we're going to try to fix it and maybe get an ice machine for some mixy drinks.
For some mixy drinks. I actually did, surprisingly, we're recording this podcast earlier in the day. I have in there some limes as well as some bubbly water for some vodka sodies, but I figured didn't want to get too tipsy McScruffins early. So that is just sitting there. But yes, hopefully we get the ice maker. We'll be rocking this thing quickly.
Yeah, we will. And then our poor snow cone machine can finally get its day.
Oh, my God, yes. If you, for some reason, hear about a fire at a small studio in Hawthorne, that was us because we were soldering the Fixie McUppins fixes, and it all burned down. So I apologize if you never hear from us again. I like
Aura's new ice machine. We should fix this one and then swap it for the new one. They'd never know.
Yes, it would. But
yeah, probably would.
The other one's dark.
I know they don't look
stainless steel
a thing alike
at all, and the other one is very technologically savvy. It has like a display on it.
You can make different sizes of cubes. You can make extra large cubes. I like that.
Yeah, we do. Let's just be happy we're gonna get an ice maker, maybe.
Yeah.
But if we don't get it, we'll probably be forced to buy one because it's so close. It's like, oh my gosh, it's right there. Snow machine, ice machine for our snow.
That's
snow
why
machine.
We need the ice maker, is so that we can fill our snow machine for inside the studio.
Yes, just we just want. Nothing says great film equipment like moist.
Yes. Dampness.
It's fantastic. Wow. Now I see why Funbot really hates us. We have literally.
Hey, it's only been, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. So what's new? On my end, not so much because my parentals were in town, so they hung out with me and my wife for about a good week, and we did and drank too much. So I didn't really do much other than placate to them and keep them happy. And
nice.
That was about it. What's new with you, Alex?
Well, we're talking to a buddy of ours about shooting some no budget features, as it were.
Yep.
Which, hey, great for this show.
You came to the right place.
Yeah. So hopefully we're going to start prepping for that and then aim for shooting in June, which is real fast.
Yeah, it's going to pop up before we know it, especially because we really don't know much about the project.
I know, our buddy. It's kind of like the brainchild of our friend, and we don't know exactly what he's going to throw our direction.
We never do.
So we'll take it as it comes, as you know.
Hey, you know what? That's
what else can you do?
That's how we kind of operate. Mostly for all of our things.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kind of see how it goes and
hope for the best.
Hope for the best. That's all we can do. So those are the two biggest things with us right now.
But hopefully that'll mean we'll have more what's new.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Related to actually making no budget films.
That would be fantastic.
In the near future.
Sweet. Maybe some behind the scenes videos on nobudgetfilmmaking.com.
Oh my God. Think of it. Just imagine that.
Having videos for a podcast about filmmaking.
Fantastic.
We're shocked as much as you are, guys.
Yeah.
So, so that's basically what's new with us.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So now Funbot can just suck it because we didn't spend too much time on that. We spent more time on our ice machine and snow cone maker.
Yeah. Get it.
Nailed it.
So what are we talking about today, Trevor? What is this? What's happening?
We earlier were talking about, because we're in the midst of a complete rehaul of our equipment list.
Yeah, I guess that's new. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about that last time because we had come up with the idea. We had done a complete overhaul of our equipment list, and so that's also what's new is we're working on selling and buying. But we have yet to touch on and that mostly was equipment for the production of a film and the production of a project. But we really haven't touched on post-production and all, because you know what, me and Alex love equipment for all aspects of filmmaking because we get all googly-eyed at post-production stuff.
That's
sweet
true.
4K monitors.
There's all sorts of cool stuff
There's
out
all
there.
tons of stuff that just make your post so much easier, so much cooler.
Yeah.
And all that fun stuff. So today we're going to be talking about building out your perfect post-production suite. Maybe it's it's the basement of your parents' house where you also live. Nothing wrong with that.
It could be your bedroom.
Could be your bedroom. Could be a large closet.
It could be an extra room in your house.
Yeah.
It could be a whole separate building that you rent or office or whatever.
Yeah, we're not going to be.
It doesn't matter.
We're not gonna judge you on where you do your post work. It could be your couch, and all you have is a laptop.
I do most of my post work on my couch.
Yeah, I do most of my post work
in a box.
At the New York Post. No,
yeah.
I do my post work. Usually, I have a second bedroom at my place, and I have a little setup there. Also, do a lot of post work at the studio because we have our beast of a computer that slices through 4K footage like a hot knife through butter. Nailed it.
That's right.
Yeah. So
I've just figured out your obsession with Post-it notes because you're big on the post.
You have nothing. God, I hate you so much. But I do have an obsession with Post-it notes because I think they're phenomenal and the greatest invention that man has ever done is fuck the wheel. Yeah. It's just
a light adhesive on a small square of paper.
Did you come up with it?
I didn't have it was made before I was born.
Well, obviously you didn't come up with it then. So
I would have probably.
Yeah.
Prove me
All
wrong.
Tell me I'm lying. You know what? I believe you. You've done it.
Yeah.
You've done it.
Yeah.
You would have. So the biggest question when you're always doing posts is what kind of computer do you get? Do you get a lappy top? Do you get a tower? Do you get an all-in-one, which is what an iMac?
Yeah, exactly. I know HP makes an all-in-one too. All the companies make all-in-ones, but I think the iMac is probably the one that most people get when they're thinking about doing like post.
I mean, the problem is that a lot of people think of Macs when they think of post. They do Final Cut. They think of that Macs are the end-all, be-all. I am using a Mac Pro, the trash can as they call them, and that thing has been giving me nothing but problems, especially on a server-based edit. Like if it's connected to a network server, man, that thing is failing left and right.
Yeah,
and it's horrible. No, it could be a bunch of things. People edit on their MacBook Pros, which are great for 1080 kind of work. I have an HP ZBook, and I can edit 4K footage on that. It's starting to get a little slower, but it still edits 4K footage, and you know what? Works for me.
Yeah. And I think, especially, there's a lot of things to consider because a lot of times if you're editing like a larger project, you'll have proxies and stuff like that. If you're shooting 4K, 6K, or whatever, raw.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you don't necessarily need something that can slice, the real 4K footage.
Yeah.
But I do think that having a computer that's able to handle 4K, obviously it's going to help in the render phase of things.
And the visual effects.
The visual effects, motion graphics, all that kind of stuff, compositing.
Now, I would say if you could afford it, me personally, if you had the room, get a tower.
Yeah.
One thing that's great about towers is that they're upgradable. And we'll talk about later about how long you should expect to have, like, you know, the life of the computer. The problem I have with Macs is that you can't really upgrade them very well. Some you can't upgrade at all. So once it becomes a little slow, you got to get rid of it and get a new one.
Right.
But our beast.
So it's like if you buy the model that has 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're stuck with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Macs are like that because they make it so hard to open up. Now, with PC-based laptops and towers, a little bit more user-friendly, which is why I like PCs more than Windows-based, Linux-based, whatever you want to say. Let's just say non-Macs, because we can easily open them up and upgrade things, take things out, fix things if they go bad. My recommendation would be, if you have the room for it and if you have the budget for it, go with a tower as your main editing computer. But get a laptop, and if you could afford it, a laptop that can at least edit 1080p, because say you're on a field shoot or say you are on an interview shoot on location. Me and Alex just had this a couple of weeks ago with the pilot we shot. You're going to need to transfer footage because for the most part, especially with interviews, you're going to run out of media. Yeah. You're going to have your cards fill up, especially if you're doing 4 people and each person interviews for an hour. Unless you got lots of money and lots of media, you're going to run out of media space. And so you're going to want to be able to transfer that footage on location because you want to free up the room so you can continue shooting. If you have a tower, you're not going to lug that tower to a location shoot. No.
Right. One thing that I've seen people do, I'm interested in hearing what you think about this. They'll take an all-in-one that I'm assuming they use as their main computer. They'll put it in a Pelican, almost like a monitor case, and take that to set with them if they're like a DAT or if they're, transferring footage or whatever. That
to me just seems like overkill. And now, granted, if that's all you can afford is an all-in-one, then do it. Like, that'd be great. But it just kind of seems almost like you're asking for trouble, because the more you transport that monitor, which also has the computer built in, the more risk you are at of something crashing, right? Something breaking.
Because generally speaking, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I've always been wary of sort of like tipping and like flipping upside down and like shaking around computers too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bunch of parts. Now, iMacs and all-in-ones are usually built kind of a little more like, there's not a lot of parts that can pop out because they are built as all-in-ones, so it's not easily to like pop out a part and put something new in.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, yeah, a Pelican case will probably protect it, but the second you're starting to transport this big giant thing, it topples and falls, you're fucked.
Yeah. If you crack the screen on it.
Don't.
It's not
I was bringing a nice little cinema display to the studio. And granted, as I got in my car, I was like, I should have laid that thing down flat. I was like, it'll be fine. I went up the ramp of my parking garage and I just heard, foomp, and I was like, oh no. And it just hit
the corner.
Hit the corner, right?
Snagged the corner.
And cracked the screen. Luckily, it was a newer one, so the actual, like, glass that covers the screen can pop off with magnets and be replaced. But, like, that can happen. And so don't do that. Just bring a laptop. I mean, if you can't afford one that has the ability to edit, all it is a pass-through. It's just a pass-through to pass on the card reader to a hard drive, because no laptop is going to have enough space for everything. And you really don't need a great one. So you could just have something that will turn on, hook up 2 things, pass footage between the card reader and the hard drive, and that's be fine. But I do recommend having a laptop on hand for if you're having field shoots, just so you can transfer that footage. But in my opinion, the best thing to have at home or in your editing suite is a tower, because you can upgrade it and all that stuff. And you don't have to go to, you don't have to do a custom build. You can get one from Dell, you can get one from HP, but if you have the money, custom build is pretty nice because you can kind of, figure out exactly what you want and need.
Now, do you think, speaking of custom building, like if you're able to put all the pieces together yourself, right? Does that actually come out cheaper than, say, buying like a pre-built one with the same parts in it?
I would say yes, because if you pay a company, they have to pay those people a salary to make that stuff. And so maybe they'll get the parts a little cheaper because they buy in volume, but at the same time, there's negatives and positives of building your own. I used to always build my own computers. Nerd alert. Such a strong nerd alert. But the one advantage of is if you have somebody else, even if it's a custom build, if you have somebody else build it, there's always tech support, or there should be tech support. So if something goes wrong, they can, troubleshoot it for you. I remember we had a project and they wanted it done really fast, and they wanted these updates to do really fast, and we gave them an ultimatum. We said, well, you can either pay us to get 2 editors to do these changes because the render time is so much, or you can buy us a new computer, basically. And it was somebody we had worked with in the past, and people I had worked with in the past, so I was very friendly with them, and I felt comfortable telling them this. But we said, or you can get us a new computer that can render at twice the speeds, and we'll be done with it faster. Like, that's just what it is. These were unannounced changes that were on them. It wasn't our fault. And they bought us a computer, and it was custom built. And so there was a company behind it. And I remember we were looking to upgrade to Thunderbolt 3 with a card. And I emailed them. I said, hey, you want to make sure that this motherboard could handle this? And said, no, it can't. So don't do it. And by the way, we don't recommend any computer to have add-on Thunderbolt cards. If it's not built into the motherboard, we don't recommend it. And that was nice, because we would have spent like $150 on a card that wouldn't have worked. And you never want to have to return things because it could be a little wonky. But but I used to always build it, and I built one for you as well. And you can kind of get things a little cheaper, and you can also buy them used. If you don't want, if there's a card out there that somebody wanted to upgrade to the biggest and best that is so expensive, and they want to get rid of their old card, you can buy that one, and that's just fine for you, what you need it for, much cheaper than, because everything you're going to buy through a company is going to be brand new.
Yeah. And then also just talking about the laptop all-in-one, like custom, the ability to customize those types of things. I feel like we should mention the HP line of stuff, because they've specifically built their all-in-one and their laptops to be somewhat expandable, not totally.
Yeah, what I like about the HP Z series, especially the all-in-ones, they kind of open like a car hood.
Yeah.
They just is like one solid piece of covering that you open up, and there's access to everything. Add a new hard drive, add some memory. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you can't necessarily add things where there's not places for it. Obviously, I mean, that's also the case in a regular tower. But if you wanted to put in like an SSD instead of the hard drive that's built in, you could just swap it out. Yeah. Same with like the memory, you can just sort of swap it out.
Yeah, I remember I upgraded the memory on my ZBook when I got it used. I added a second hard drive, and it was great. It was easy.
The only thing that you're limited on, which I imagine is difficult in general for all types of computers, is so like my ZBook, I can only get up to a certain amount of, or like a certain level of graphics card. Anything else, I can't, because of the motherboard. Do you think it's possible, like if someone got a tower and then they were like our computer that doesn't have USB 3 capabilities or whatever, because of the motherboard, do you think it's possible or like ideal to then say, okay, well, all we need to do is switch out the motherboard?
Yeah, then you get into like, I mean, we could go down a deep hole of this. Then you get into like processor issues of like the processor that you have doesn't work fit with that motherboard.
Yeah, so you have to get a processor too.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that can be upgraded and keeping the old parts from your old computer, and it like acts like a new computer. Like adding memory just is a game changer. If you can add memory, it will drastically improve the performance of your computer, and it's not that expensive, and it usually pops right in. Yeah, it's easy to do. But I mean, I know I have a movie server at home. Man, I'm really nerding out today. I have a movie server at home, and I upgraded it, and I took the motherboard from one and the processor from the old one, because the processor is great, but the memory, the motherboard wouldn't allow me to upgrade my memory, and I just pulled the processor out, put it in the new one, and it worked fine. So you can do it. It's just compatibility becomes a big issue, because once you how am I trying to say this right? Like, once you get into this idea of like building your own, like HP, not just HP, but like PCs in general, you're going to have a bunch of companies coming out with things that might not be compatible with other things. So instead of like, for Macs, most of the stuff you're getting are Mac parts. But for PCs, there's 30 companies that are making parts for it. So it's all like, okay, well, we got to see if this works. We got to see if this works.
Yeah, and things that are new might not work with things that are older.
Exactly.
Because they've built it with the other new things in mind.
Yeah.
So
just keep that in mind.
Now, when it comes to editing, do you think there's a difference, like in the requirements for the computer, like the specs on the computer, if you're trying to edit something that is like a feature length versus short? So if you do a lot of editing work, but it's all kind of like under 10 minutes, versus if you're like, I'm going to edit a feature, do you need like a better computer for that?
I would say you probably need more memory, only because you're going to be dealing with a lot of clips at the same time. So you're going to be switching between clips, and it's going to be reading files at different times. It's going to want to swap around. And I mean, storage, of course, because how much footage you have. But I definitely think you need to upgrade memory, because you're going to have a lot of clips that you're going through, a lot of takes that you're going through, and to manage all that, you open a file that has 150 different takes in it, then that computer has to load that and keep it all in memory so that it can easily switch between it all. So I think it comes down to memory in terms of like shooting a short or editing a short or editing a feature. It comes down to that, and including like you're adding in. If you want to do your own sound, you're adding in sound effects, you're adding in dialogue. All that stuff just adds to the memory and, of course, the space.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so should we go through all the different pieces and see what kind of stuff we can dig up?
We'll bring up what our computer is and what we'd upgrade on our computer and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So for people that don't really know that much about computers and stuff...
what are you listening to this episode for?
Yeah, no, they're listening to this episode so they can learn about it. What is a processor?
So the processor is just kind of what handles all the processing of the information. Just, running applications. Think of it, processor as a long-term memory. Memory is just random access memory, which just kind of goes in there, comes out real quick, and kind of floats away. But a processor is kind of like handling your rendering. A lot of the processors done on rendering, also memory and graphics card. But processor is basically the brains of the computer. The faster that the processor is, the faster computations it can do at one time. And when you boil it down, digital cinema is just a bunch of zeros and ones, which is what is handled by the processor and the memory. There's tons of processors out there, Intel, AMD, you can, Macs have their own processors, that kind of stuff, but they're mostly Intel based. So, meaning you can do a lot of, you could do a lot of different options when you buy it. It comes down to the motherboard that you buy, what's compatible.
So I've always kind of wondered this, like it's just, they build in some type of common sense with it, like the Intel i7, right?
Yeah.
Is better than the i5.
Yeah.
But is there any sort of like, is the numbering of those related to anything, or is that just like what they call it?
I think the i3 and the i5 is for laptops. i5 I think is like, I think i3 is definitely for laptops. i5 could be, if I remember correctly, like the cheaper version of the i7. So it's like, hey, this is like good for personal computing. Don't need to be crazy powerful. i7 is the most powerful. And then you get to Xeon, and that's like server-based chips. Right. And which we have in our beast of a machine, because a server is just processing data, and so they're great for processing renders. Yeah, they're great for processing, the instructions for an export.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of like it's kind of a performance thing. It's like the i7 is the top, and then there's i7 Extreme and all that. Right. So there's always Extreme. So
you think a Xeon processor, in terms of Intel, is like the way to go?
Yeah, especially if you're doing visual effects and a lot of rendering. Xeons are just great because they allow you to expand. They work really well with. We have two Xeon processors in ours, So it's 2 processors in one machine, and they just work well together, and they're used to just hammering out ones and zeros really quick and really efficiently.
Yeah, and how? So this is like I'm not very like computer savvy when it comes to like all this stuff.
I was a computer science major before I became a cinema guy.
What is a core? They always talk about like quad core, or like this thing has 8 cores.
So it's like a virtual processor. So like 4 cores means it's like these 4 different cores inside the processor can each do their own thing without being dependent on the other. So it's almost like having 4 processors in the computer, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I did this research, but
I'm pretty sure our Beast has like 12 a 12 core.
Yeah, each one is a 12 core, I believe.
Man.
No, maybe they're each 6 core.
I think they're each 6 core.
But yeah, so we have 2 of those, and they're beasts. And so, also what happens is Xeons use, like with anything else, are compatible with motherboards that give you the option to expand to a lot of memory.
Right.
Memory is really good for, these programs to edit like Resolve and like Premiere and being able to handle a lot of things and also help with rendering and all that. And the more memory you have, the better. So like your prosumer, your pro version motherboards with like i7s and all that have a kind of a peak amount of memory that they can handle in one motherboard.
Yeah, and it's probably like 32 or 64 or something?
No, they could go up to 128 or 256.
Interesting.
But if I were to, I want to look this up. If I were, let's see. I'm going to look it up right now. We have Xeon E5 2630 processor max memory. And if I remember correctly, it was crazy. Okay, so that's version 4. Ours is version 3. Let's see if I can find it. So we have version 3. The newest version's out now. Max memory. 5-star reviews. Okay, each of ours has 8 cores. So we have 16 cores.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So the max memory, 768 gigabytes. So 128 to 256 is kind of the norm. We could do 512 and then some.
Yeah.
And that is where we're kind of lagging. We want to get upgrading. But, the other downside of Xeons is their memory is kind of expensive because it's for servers. It's for, in industries and enterprises.
Right. It's meant to be like on a rack of like 12 of them at a company that can afford to pay $1 million for a bunch of servers.
Exactly. So, So, we could have a lot of memory in this thing, and that would help. I want to do more memory in this thing. But we only have 64, and memory is kind of like another way of just you can have multiple programs running at the same time, multiple processes running at the same time. I would say 60. I mean, we have 64 in ours, and it runs like a beast. And all this stuff is, dependent on each other. Like if you have a really good processor and not as much memory, you'll be fine. If you have an okay processor and a lot of memory, that'll kind of help out.
Yeah.
And if you have a really great processor with a really great graphics card and okay memory, that'll help out too.
Yeah. So what about the graphics cards? Because that also has memory inside of it, right?
Yeah, and it has the ability to, and it, as it says, it is, it's, your graphics card. It's to be able to display that 4K and be able to render that 4K. It helps too, especially, people ask what's the way to go with NVIDIA and ATI. We have an NVIDIA. And that's because it uses CUDA, which is this processing language that works really well with Premiere. And Premiere can, optimize for CUDA.
Yeah.
CUDA.
Yeah.
I think Macs stick with ATI, though, which is weird because Macs want you to use Final Cut rather than Premiere.
Right.
But, yeah, the graphics cards are great, and they can get expensive. You don't need the same graphics card that you would if you were a gamer and streaming and all that stuff.
Right. But if you are going to be doing like computer graphics, like CG, 3D production, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, get a good graphics card, get a good NVIDIA card.
What do you think is like so there is memory in graphics cards. You can get like ones that have like
1 terabyte.
Can you get ones with 1 terabyte?
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
man.
let me see what ours is. Hold on.
I thought you could get ones with like 1 gigabyte or like one.
No. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Technical support. What is our card? Oh my God. Let's see here. I'll tell you one thing. Oh, system information. There it is. Come on.
The joy of Windows 10.
I know, right? So we have GeForce GTX 970, GeForce GTX 970. What is that? It is a. Of course, everyone's like, "Is it good for gaming?" You suck, NVIDIA. You just really performance, features, specifications. There we go. So we have 4 gigabytes of memory in ours.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe there's not a. I think there is a 1 terabyte graphics card, but they're super expensive. I think they just started releasing them. Yeah. So AMD revealed a 1 terabyte. No, that's flash memory. I thought there was a dedicated graphics card that was 1 terabyte, and it's like ridiculously expensive. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of the 2 terabytes of memory and a new $7,000 graphics card. Jeez.
Man.
Woo!
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
All right. So what also, speaking of like NVIDIA, they just talked about their new Turing architecture or whatever, right?
I haven't looked into that. That's supposed to be like some way of like...
It's like artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Something about that?
Yeah, which is crazy. But it really... The thing is that what will happen a lot of times is that people will companies will release... they'll release... like technology that can't be optimized yet, because it also like to use that the software has to be out there, and
well, it's kind of like cameras.
Yeah,
like they make cameras that are 6K, but there's no way of viewing that.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna actually ever right now see 6K because there aren't 6K monitors.
Exactly, and that's the exact same thing. Is like it's. They'll just release it because it's like what they call it is future proof. So they make it so that it's like, well, in the future our camera will still be relevant, or in the future our graphics card will still be relevant once these software nerds catch up, and once these monitor, TV display nerds catch up.
Yeah.
So they do have this new technology, and they're always trying to create new technology, because at the same time, when it comes to think about it in terms of like cameras, even like you said, they release this high-end technology to be bought immediately by like high-end industries. Yeah. So they're releasing, a 6K camera for the VFX crew of major motion pictures, and then slowly it'll trickle down to prosumer or like consumer stuff. Think about our camera. Our camera, the V35, was released, dual ISO, crazy expensive, and then that technology that they had was able to then be released in the LT, smaller package, and then the EVA.
And the GH5S.
And the GH5S. So that's the same kind of idea when it comes to computer technology. So they have this Turing technology that NVIDIA developed that's supposed to make rendering just like blaze, and nothing can utilize it yet because the software hasn't been developed. So
nice.
That's where we are.
That's exciting.
It's exciting. But yeah.
All right, so what do you think in terms of minimum memory and minimum GPU for like, and also minimum processor specs for like an editing computer nowadays that will edit 4K, or at least, proxies, HD proxies for a 4K, and then render 4K?
Yeah, I mean, we have a 4 gigabyte. Man, maybe there is no 1 terabyte. I thought there was. It was one of those things where somebody released like, we did it. Yeah. It cost $15,000, but we did it.
Yeah, they just wire them together.
Yeah, exactly. We have four. Now, I think the biggest thing is that the biggest misconception is that it all depends on the graphics card, and like max out your graphics card more than anything else. I think especially when it comes to like editing and maybe visual effects, so you can render like the actual like 3D space and all that, it comes down. But if you're doing a simple edit on a 4K project, 4 gigabytes is all you really need. I mean, you could get away with 2 gigabytes. I forget what my one. I think my one on my laptop is 2 gigabytes.
Yeah, I think mine is too.
And it's fine. It's fine for 4K. Now, if you're getting into like Maya and you're getting into 3ds Max, you're probably going to want, now just like the Xeon processors, you can daisy chain them together so you can get 4 gigabyte cards.
Yeah.
And make it 8, and they have the technology that can utilize that. So that might be the best if you're going to do your own VFX at the end. And I'm not talking like After Effects VFX. I'm talking like you're doing 3D modeling. You're doing 3D backgrounds.
You're doing like simulations for like explosions and particles. And
exactly. You might want to get 2 4 gigabyte cards and link them together. But I'd say 2 to 4 is what you really need, and they're not that expensive. That's like maybe $400 to $500.
Yeah.
If you get your high end.
What about memory? I know for me, I've had computers that only have like 16 gigabytes of memory.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, it's fine for HD stuff.
Yeah.
Which I guess if you're cutting proxies, that'll be fine, and then it'll probably take a little bit longer to render.
Mm-hmm. I would say 64 is a good place to start. 32 or 64. 64 is kind of like all right, this is good.
Yeah.
32.
I think our laptops have 32, right?
Yeah, I think 32. And they're fine. So 32 would be good. But 64 would be a dream. So you got a Xeon. You don't need dual Xeons. We have Xeons. You got a Xeon, 32 gigabytes of memory, and 2 to 4 gigabyte graphics card. You'll be sitting pretty.
Not bad.
Yeah. And then this is where Alex comes in because he loves looking at all the pretty monitors out there.
I do like monitors.
So, there's no point in editing 4K and all that if you can't view it in 4K. So our next big purchase in the post world is going to be a 4K monitors. So what do you look for in a 4K monitor? Not one on set, but one in post.
Well, I don't know because I've never had one. But what I would look for...
Touche, sir.
What I would look for is the ability to calibrate colors.
Okay.
Because for me, like monitoring when it comes to editing is less important in terms of like having the resolution and color accuracy, because you're not really concerning yourself with that when you're just editing.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if you're doing color grading and stuff like that, you want something that you can calibrate to be as accurate as possible. Some monitors claim that they have like a connection to like Technicolor. I know BenQ has some color correct supposedly monitors, and then but having the ability to calibrate them more than just like what's built into your sort of like computer brightness and color settings, I think is ideal.
I'm with you on that.
And having like what is it? Like a higher bit depth, some monitors, you can get like 10-bit monitors that aren't too crazy expensive,
Yeah.
That's not bad.
No. Do they have 6K monitors out there?
6K monitors? I don't know.
Let me see. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Dell, of course, has an 8K monitor.
What for?
I don't know.
How much is it?
$4,200.
Jeez.
It's an ultra sharp, too.
It's a 7-inch.
32. Yeah, exactly. That's how it would be. Gee, and I think Apple came out with their new like MacBooks that have 6K monitors built in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's also things you can get. There are these crazy color calibrators, and they look like almost like mice, like computer mice.
Yeah, you drape them over the monitor
and
into the center.
And it will
There's a software that comes with it.
It'll analyze the color coming out of the monitor and adjust it to what is industry standards. You have presets that work.
Yeah. So basically what the software does is it displays a series of different colors and tones and whatnot. And then the little mouse-looking thing reads those colors and determines like whether it's got the optimal like brightness, and whether it's like shifting, to a different color a little bit, and it'll correct it for that. Like if your reds are slightly green, it'll push them more towards the red side or whatever. And those are cool. Those are like necessary if you're doing color grading and stuff.
And I guess we should say that we assume that if you're listening to the No Budget Filmmaking podcast, you're probably trying to do everything on your own, which means you're color grading your own thing to save some money. So this is where it would come in handy, because you're going to be color grading your project after you're done with the edit. Once you get picture lock, you're like, all right, now time to grade it on my own.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do.
And I think the reality of it is, you could grade a project entirely on scopes to be like color accurate. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to like adding the creative element, you want to be able to see what you're doing. And the truth of it is, you should probably calibrate it like every time, because computers, it can be slightly different day to day even, or like week to week, especially if you're like, if you bought this brand new monitor or whatever, and then all of a sudden you've left it on for like a month, it's probably shifted slightly.
Yeah. Or if you share it with somebody, they may have different settings they want to use.
Yeah.
If you have an intern come in and edit in your sweet computer because they want to do some 3ds Max, they may have changed some things, and you're like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
And what's also is that a lot of programs, when you open them, will calibrate the monitor as they see fit.
Yeah.
And so if you're using a program that you haven't used before, and all of a sudden you're going back into your color correcting and you didn't calibrate your monitor, uh-oh.
Yeah. Like I remember one of the first monitors I had, when I started doing post and stuff, was, I don't even know how to say it properly. Is it Asus or Asus?
Asus. I think it's Asus, yeah.
I had one of those, and it definitely shifted to magenta. And so it like affects the way, because if you're monitoring things and color grading things and your monitor has a magenta shift, when you actually view it on something else, it's going to come out green.
Yeah, absolutely. We have that problem at Aura, and we don't even have like professional monitors. We have TVs, plasma TVs.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting with producers and doing some edits, and they'll be like, "Oh, that looks really red." I'm like, "Oh, look! Don't look there. Look there. Like the Asus there are red, and then the monitors that we have are blue. So it's just a mess." And it's like,
no consistency, and that's kind of why you need to be consistent. If you're really serious about it, you need to be consistent and make that sort of part of your day-to-day tasks, is making sure that your stuff is calibrated, and that even goes for on-set monitors. Like your on-camera monitor should be calibrated. Your like director's monitors should be calibrated, because you want to be able to be looking at things, as accurately as possible.
And just to reemphasize, these are all computers. Anything you use are basically computers. Cameras, they're computers that just capture light and process it. You got to even calibrate your camera on set. I know our V35, you have to do the absolute black balance so that it knows what black is in any situation, and that they recommend you do that every time you go to a new location.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be calibrated to get color accuracy.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to monitoring, one of the biggest factors is like your environment. You can get kind of like weird color stuff going on with your eyeballs based on what's surrounding your monitor. Like they say, if you're gonna grade, you should be in a room that is painted with like neutral gray.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or what is it, 18% gray?
Yeah.
And then have like very dim tungsten lights. But they have you can like look this up, and
really nerd out
about your post if you're going in that direction. But there's a lot of places you can find like what the ideal situation is for and positioning of like your monitor compared to the wall, like how much space there should be.
Yeah.
Because eye fatigue and strain and stuff, it affects how colors are seen.
Yeah.
And you can have I'm sure you've all had this scenario where you're looking at like a bright monitor or like a bright light, and then you look off to something else and you have like a burn-in kind of spot in your eyeball from that thing, and it's like a different color. And so you can see how like light and different settings and stuff could affect the way you're seeing things things.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. And you'll see that their big studios and all that, they will pay top money to have the perfect environment for post.
Yeah.
Because they want it, because they know that when it comes down to post, it's the closest it's going to be to what people see when it's in the theaters.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure the colors are right. You know, there are movies that just get the color all wrong, and I don't know why. But you know, it's like, oh my gosh, this looks red, and it doesn't have any reason to look red.
Yeah.
It's not like it's helping the story in any way.
I know.
But yeah, so I mean, it's crazy. I mean, color calibration and just the ambiance of the room play a huge factor when you're trying to figure out your post setup.
Yep.
We don't have 4K monitors. We want to get them.
Yep.
Because we do our nailed it. Oh, is it Friday yet? We do our own our own post. We do our own color correcting. We haven't really gotten into the sound part, but you know. But that plays into it too. But Alex is taking some courses on color correcting, so he does color correcting, and it's really hard monitor to monitor, especially because a lot of people watch things on TVs that aren't color calibrated, and they watch them on their monitors that aren't color calibrated. So
and what I've realized now, this is a new fun twist on this.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working with clients. It's different. Like if you're working on a big project or like you're doing a watch down in theory in like a real space, and they come and they watch it on your machine on like a TV that you have in your studio or whatever that's also been sort of like set up the best it can be.
Yeah.
But nowadays you send off something for notes and revisions, they look at it on their phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and good luck that being.
Yeah, it's like, who knows? Who knows what's happening? Or you know, or maybe they have like junky monitors. But the truth of the matter is, your movie's going to be seen on junky monitors and TVs that have different like cinema settings and like all sorts of weird stuff. So you have to kind of like be aware of that too. And it should look good across the board. Yeah. But know that not everyone's going to see it the way you see it on your computer.
Yeah, and I mean, don't go into it thinking you like. I know people who will be like, "Well, you didn't watch it in a theater, and it looks perfect there." It's like, just settle down.
Calm down.
Not everybody watches things in theaters these days. All right, I know that everyone wants them to, but Steven Spielberg, I'm looking at you. But you know, it's all changing. The way people are taking in media these days is changing every day.
Yeah, and I think it's the same with sound. I mean, they always say you should, when you do your sound mix, you should hear it from your, studio stereo speakers that you have, or if you have like a 5.1 or a 7.1 or whatever sound setup in your area, you should listen to that, but also listen to it on like earbuds, and then straight out of like a TV speaker, and straight out of like a laptop speaker, and you listen to it in all these different things. It's obviously not going to sound the best out of all those things, but you want to try to get the best it can be out of each one of those things. Yeah,
exactly. And it's hard to say what you should edit for and change for. It's like if it sounds really crappy on headphones, do I want to improve it on headphones but lose the quality on speakers? It's hard to say. It's so hard to say.
I also think people don't realize that most, like if you're doing a high-end production, you're going to be grading. You're going to do two different grades. You're going to do one for the theater, and you're going to do one for video. Yeah. Or for DVD, and then maybe you might even do a third one for streaming because the compression's going to change the way it looks. Yeah. So it all changes every time you get a different display medium and different distribution medium. And then finally, so you got your computer, you got your monitors, and then there's accessories. And you know what? We're going to put accessories of storage in there because these days most storage is external because you're going to be moving from system to system. So don't think we forgot about storage when we talked about the computer because most of the stuff is going to be external. It's just external and or, it's cheap nowadays and kind of like easily swappable even if it's internal.
Yep, exactly. So what we got? We got now since we're talking about color, there are the suite color calibration control panels.
The control panels, yeah. Not the calibrators.
Not the calibrators.
That's an accessory though, too.
Yeah, the color calibration, the color grading control panel, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that you all see with the balls on them, the roller balls.
Yep.
That you can.
So Blackmagic makes some pretty cool ones nowadays, and they're relatively inexpensive. Before that, they were kind of more of a premium luxury that you got on like high-end systems, or you had to spend like a couple $1,000 on one. But yeah, now Blackmagic has their little $900 one that's kind of cool, and then they have their bigger ones, obviously. The really big ones are like $30,000.
Those things are crazy, and that's like for a
real.
That's for
post
like
house.
A post house that is doing it every day and getting giant projects.
Yeah, and it's not really necessary at all.
No,
it's a luxury. It's something that you use to speed up your process. Kind of in the same way, if you were writing a script entirely on like an iPad with a touch screen keyboard, it would take longer than working on like a laptop with a keyboard.
Yeah, look at these metaphors.
You could get it done. It would take longer.
Yes, exactly. And so, I think, does Blackmagic sell an actual board, or do they have recommended ones for their for Resolve?
A board? A control panel?
Yeah, control panel.
They have 3. They have the mini one that's like $999. They have a larger one that's like $2,000, I think. And then they have their real one that's $30,000.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, I mean, I think Alex learned most of his color correction on Resolve, right?
Resolve and, at the time, Speed Grade.
Yeah.
Right. Adobe used to have a program called Speed Grade. And then also Lumetri, which is the built-in Premiere one. Mm-hmm. Oh, and also Colorista.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Colorista.
Colorista's kind of cool, but, yeah. And I did all of that without any control panels at all.
And you were fine.
Yeah.
And you were able to...
You can do it all with a mouse.
Exactly. Because it's all digital. Again, guys, it's all digital. Just like, if you look at something like a TriCaster, it has the USB board where you can switch, but then ATEM from Blackmagic just uses a keyboard. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, it's all the same.
It's just, did things make it easier or harder for you?
Yeah.
Then also, when we're talking about sound, a nice set of speakers go a long way. Now... ideally you'd want like 5.1 surround so you could, test it out.
That'd be cool. Or like a special Dolby Atmos setup in your...
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be great. But just a nice set of something like, M Audio or just good speakers that give you good, bass levels and treble levels. I don't recommend doing most of your sound editing and sound mastering where you work, because that, again... You want to go to a room, just almost like they paint editing rooms and color correction rooms, like a certain color. You want to go to a room that's been tuned for sound.
Yeah.
Because your little closet or your second bedroom, not great for sound levels.
Yeah. And talk about nerd alerts. I mean, the sound people, they know all.
Oh my God.
Like, they will set up a room and then know the exact, like, perfect spot to be. Mm-hmm. To hear everything right, Mm-hmm. Because similarly, if you're in this room, it's usually the center that is like the best spot, not like by a wall or like towards the back where people don't. I think when people like set up rooms, they don't normally sit themselves right in the middle.
No,
Yeah. So it might be kind of weird to think about it that way, but like that's probably the best place in a sound scenario.
Well, if you think about it, in your living room where usually people have their 5.1, your couch is usually in the middle of the living room.
Right. Yeah.
And so they do have like apps that aren't as good, but they do have like almost like the color calibration mouse looking thing. They have hardware that you put in the place where you're going to sit, and it will help you calibrate your speakers for the best levels.
Yeah.
And that just shows you that right in front of your computer with the speakers right next to your ears is probably not the best for like mastering sound, so you know the right levels.
No. However, again, it depends on what you're doing, because I think if you're doing a lot of stuff for like digital, if you're doing like YouTube videos or like web videos, it probably is the best, because that's how people are listening to it out of their computer speakers. Mm-hmm. They're listening to it out of headphones.
Yeah.
It's not they're not going to have a. Well, first of all, you're probably not going to mix in 5.1. You're not even going to have that option.
Nope.
But no one's going to be listening to it in their surround sound theater setup.
Yeah.
So it again comes down to doing what is best for what you're doing.
Yeah. And again, as we say with sound on set, sometimes like, man, all right, colorists are nerds, but sound people are nerds.
Super nerds.
Like those guys.
Super nerds.
Are like.
Super nerds.
Yeah. I mean, they're, oh my gosh. Like, let them handle the sound mastering.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to give it to you just exactly how you want it.
Yep. What about mice? I know. So there's different.
We had one dead one on our desk.
I know. Yeah,
but,
it was a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Our sound guy at Aura uses a trackball, a rollerball.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He bought that.
Specifically for sound.
Yeah.
And like doing it.
And so I don't know why he bought that. I like, you know, I was of the longest time, I was of the wireless.
Yeah. Flavor.
Wireless flavor for when it came to mice and keyboards. But then I was like, wait, why? I'm like right there. What's the point? What, like, there's latency, there's batteries.
Yeah.
It's just
All
kind of
sorts of
annoying.
weird stuff.
Yeah. And so, like, I've slowly gotten off the train of.
I think if you have a desktop,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. I think for laptops and stuff, wireless mice can be nice.
Yeah, they can be nice. Nice. Check that out.
Nice.
Nice. But I mean, for the most part, if you have a tower, just go.
Just wire it in.
Wired it in. You don't have to worry about like losing a connection, losing Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Replacing the batteries.
Replacing batteries, which is the worst.
I mean, our freaking iMac that has wireless, it like is always losing the connection to the thing. It's like, screw this. Just give me a wired mouse. It's so much nicer.
Yeah, and I prefer actually. I've never owned one of those trackball
Rollerball things, yeah.
but I've tried them. It's just I can't get down with it.
Maybe it'll come with practice.
Yeah,
But
to me, like a regular mouse is solid. I actually have gotten really good at using the trackpad for things. I can
look
do.
at you.
I've done like Photoshop, I've done After Effects stuff all with like just the trackpad.
Look at you.
And it's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, again, it goes back to your writing a script on an iPad.
Yeah.
It just may take a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, I've done that too. I've done Photoshop on a trackpad. It's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
But it'll get the job done. You might get frustrated a little bit, but yeah, it is what it is.
And then in the same realm, I know people that don't use a mouse and instead use a tablet, like a
Wacom?
pen, like a Wacom, like a pen tablet,
Yeah.
a Bamboo, something like that. Which, again, I think there's kind of like a learning curve to it. There's like a little bit of a knack to it that you got to get used to. Mm-hmm. And it definitely like ruins the portability factor.
Yeah.
If you're using a laptop. I don't really know why one would use one for like just editing. It seems strange. I guess if you're really good at it,
I
wouldn't
guess,
make
but
a difference.
I don't see the advantages of it.
I don't either.
Again, it's like it would be the same kind of idea as like editing on an iPad Pro, which has the pencil.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that. Yeah, I would say that he might, the person who uses a Wacom for editing, he might use the Wacom for a lot of other things, and just it's there and hooked up to the computer.
Yeah, it's like
But he's the guy I make fun of.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, I would say
some of them do have like the mouse option. So
okay,
it's like a mouse and a pen. So maybe, yeah.
Is that the one where you put it down flat and then the mouse doesn't have any batteries? It's more magnetic, and
Yeah.
it uses it almost like a mouse.
It's like a mouse pad.
It's like a mouse pad, but it tracks the mouse.
Tracks the mouse,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I can see
Maybe.
that, but I mean, man, I don't know. Wacom is nice. You have one.
I do.
Have you used it for editing? Because yours is powerful enough to use for editing.
Yes, but mine's also the one it's like a built-in. It's a monitor that you
okay.
are touching instead of like a pad.
Gotcha.
And so
It's more of an iPad than a.
yeah, and it's weird. I have tried to edit on it, and I've used a mouse with it.
Yeah.
Because it's weird to me. First of all, editing programs are made to use a keyboard, like shortcuts and stuff.
Yeah.
And the accuracy of like hitting these little icons that aren't really meant for like touch and stuff.
Yeah.
Is weird with a pen for me. It might be not weird for other people. And then also like the thing of like clicking and dragging.
Oh
that
man,
is required for like editing.
Yeah.
Can be a little funky. I mean, the pens have little buttons on them, so you can do it, but you have to set it up right. I don't know. It's like, it's not for me per se.
Yeah. I would actually, if you guys do use a Wacom for any part of your post, please send us a message and let us know how you use it, because I'd be interested, because it is super portable, especially yours is.
Yeah.
As just a standalone like iPad, but better than an iPad.
Yeah.
But
it's great. I think, I mean, to me, the obvious uses of it are, like you said, for graphics design and stuff like that. If you were to do like a matte painting in VFX, makes sense.
Oh, I guess I could give you that. Like if you're actually making it and painting it and using the pen. But I would say if anybody out there uses their Wacom as like a way of navigating their edits, either the one that Alex has, which is the Cintiq, which is like the built-in monitor on the pad, or who has or the one that is just like an actual pad, you see nothing on it and it's just connected to your computer. Let us know. I'd be interested to see how people use them.
Yeah.
So,
and then also they make super special editing keyboards, or like little floppy overlays.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say.
Would you ever use one of those?
I've thought about it and I've seen people use them. I don't like.
And to me, it's the same. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Because you still have, like, you see the little icons on the keyboard. There's like a billion of them, right?
Yeah.
You still have to know what they are. It's the same as like learning hotkeys, except I guess it's a reminder of hotkeys, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the thing is like, I know the hotkeys that I use the most in Premiere. Now, I probably should use more, I should learn more, but the fact is, like, it's remembering the hotkey that you want to use and then what the combination is. So if I could just look down and be like, oh, that's what I want to do and know what I have to hit, it might be better.
Yeah.
But for me, I only use like 5 or 6 hotkeys, and I'm not feeling
crazy.
that I need to like get a keyboard that
tells you all of them.
Tells me the ones I don't use.
I know. That's how I feel, but I think, I don't know. I always wondered because I don't understand how you would. I guess it's like different tones for like if you have to hit Control or hit Alt or whatever and the key.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I guess that's where it comes into play. Is like you need to know like, that this one goes with the Alt and this one goes with the.
Yeah. To me, it would make more sense to completely like make a whole keyboard that. I guess they do this probably because they probably map out all the keys. Mm-hmm. But like one that's just like got buttons for all of the functions. It's not like a multi-button situation.
Almost like your deck. What is that one that you have? That little
the Stream Deck.
Stream Deck, yeah. They do have one that is like. It looks like it is. You know what it would be? It'd be a keyboard that is like your deck, Stream Deck, where the actual key changes. Because I'm seeing on like B&H that they have one that is a backlit keyboard that like lights up.
Yeah.
So maybe what'll happen is that if you hit Control, the ones that can use Control will light up, and if you hit Alt, the ones that he'll hit Alt. I don't know.
That's interesting.
I'd have to see about that. Yeah, I mean, it would be one of those things where.
I would almost rather, like, I guess what I'm getting at is I would almost rather have a custom control panel that's not a keyboard at all, but in fact a control panel that has buttons for specific things, maybe like a track wheel for like
almost like
scrubbing.
an upgraded version of your Stream Deck, like a larger version of Stream Deck.
Not even necessarily like, but yeah, I mean, basically, because the thing about the Stream Deck is you can customize it. You can like input different images so that you can like on the button itself, so that you can say, okay, this is like a play button. It has a little play icon.
Yeah.
And you can map it all out yourself. I'm saying more like the color panels.
Yeah.
which are not at all keyboards.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. But it has like the buttons, the wheels, the things that are specific to coloring. And in this case, it would be like, I know they make this basically, but like it has like a wheel for scrubbing through the footage. You know, like on the right hand side, I think it's like all the play, pause, all those functions, and then in the middle, it's you got like sound. I think Avid made these for a while. You have like sound stuff. Then there's like a touch screen, and then there's like other buttons for things that you use most.
Interesting. I'm trying to see if there's anything like that. I like what you're thinking though.
I know Avid made one. It was called
Adobe made one
Artist
for
Series.
photo editing.
The Avid Artist Series, Artist Control, is what it was called.
Let's see. Oh, look at that thing.
And it had a touch screen and like little knobs and buttons and stuff, but it was a control panel for editing.
Interesting. Okay.
And then it like theirs was actually like a 3-panel system. So like one was for editing mostly, one was for sound, and one was for coloring.
That's pretty
And they all
sweet.
had the different things. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than like a keyboard.
Yeah, I would too. Like I think keyboards are kind of dated so that I wouldn't, in terms of editing, so I wouldn't get like an editing keyboard.
Yeah.
I'd get something more like that is more intuitive to editing.
Right.
Because what they're trying to do is they're just trying to take a regular keyboard that you use for your computer stuffs and make it editing keyboard. It's like, I want something that is like
Purpose-driven thing.
I pull out when I'm editing.
Yeah.
I should look into that. That'd be pretty nice. And then, okay, we'll get into it. Storage. As you're getting to 4K and 6K footage, you're going to need storage. Now, if you have a tower, you could put some hard drives in there. You could put your, the biggest hard drives are freaking still physical spinning disks. SSDs are getting up there, 512, 1 terabyte, but you still 8, 10 terabyte drives.
But they're much faster, right? If you get an SSD.
Yeah. Oh my God. SSDs are so much faster.
So
some people I
you-
know that will like have the same computer, take out their physical hard drives and put in SSDs. Say it works like a brand new computer because everything loads faster because it's not a spinning disk.
Yeah.
If I could afford it, I would put 4 terabyte SSDs in all the computers, like 5 of them, and that would just blaze.
Yeah.
The rendering would be faster. You know what? Some people say that spinning disk hard drives are actually the bottleneck that slows down renders because it takes so long to write it to that hard drive. It takes longer to write it to the hard drive than the computer is working.
Yeah.
So the computer is trying to spit it out as fast as possible, but then the hard drive is like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
What'd you say? Let me go back.
I got it. Yeah, exactly. I would say that you're going to need a lot of storage, depending on what your situation is. For us, we have some network storage drives so we can all access the information at the same time.
Yeah.
But, 4 terabyte, 10 terabyte, 8 terabyte.
Yeah, I think the amount of storage obviously is going to depend on the type of footage that you're shooting. If you're shooting RAW, you're going to need more. If you're shooting 4K, you're going to need more than you would if you were shooting 1080. Stuff like that. But one question I have, what's RAID? You always hear about the RAIDs.
So RAID there's many different kinds of RAIDs. RAIDs is if I remember correctly, it stands for redundancy. It's like redundancy array of inexpensive disks. And basically what it is that you have in a RAID you have a bunch of like maybe 3 hard drives. And the data, when it's being written, is written to all 3 of those hard drives. So that if one fails, you don't lose all your stuff. You can recover it from the other RAIDs.
Yeah.
Now, there's many different RAIDs. One is like RAID 0, which is no RAID. You just use all the hard drives as they are. And there's another one that uses like 3 hard drives, and the 4th one is to back up all the data in a compressed way. There's ones that's like match and match, so it's like 2 hard drives and then another 2 hard drives are the exact copies of the 2. It all depends, but it's a way to secure your data so that if something horribly goes, then you can recover your data. And it helps a lot if you are working on a project and something goes horribly wrong, because hard drives fail. SSDs not as much, but the spinning physical disks, they fail. And so if one fails, you could get your stuff back and not be screwed.
Yeah. So, would you recommend for, like, let's say someone has like a production company, a small production company, where they're shooting a lot of client stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think they need like a RAID setup?
I would think so, because if they're shooting client stuff, if that fails, they've been paid for that stuff.
Yeah. So you think basically everyone who's not shooting their own just stuff for fun. Yeah.
I think you should have a RAID system. You can get little servers that are, don't need to be networked. You can just connect directly to your computer, but are RAID. And it just is a way to back it up, because if someone's paying you for the footage, you can't come back and say, I lost the footage because of my fuck up on my computer. Yeah. You'll have to go back and reshoot it for free. You're out money. They're not going to be happy with you to have to reshoot. The subjects that you shot aren't going to be happy to come back. So I would recommend RAID for everyone, just because, and especially there's a lot of a better backup. So if you delete something you didn't mean to, a lot of times you go back onto the RAID and find it. But
I think, man, I remember the very first like color correction gig I ever got was for a short film, and I met the guy to get the footage. He handed me a drive. I said, this is not the original, right? Like, you have another copy. And he said, no, that's the only one. I said, please take this back, make a copy or two, and then give it to me, because I don't want to be the one holding on to your drive with everything you shot and it's the only copy.
Yeah.
I think having backups at every point, like when you are dumping footage on set, you should make backups, really.
Yeah.
There's special programs you can get that'll do it in a safe way. And, I think the footage can fail, the data can fail at any point, so you want to make sure everything's kind of as safe as possible.
Hey, don't trust computers.
I always worry about, I always worry about my computer failing like mid-render, and it just like, screwing up an entire hard drive that's got the only project file for the thing that I've been making, so like even making copies of your project files might be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing that, like, this is this is the exact example of why you need a RAID. So a freelance photographer filed a class action lawsuit against Adobe because there was a bug that deleted like $250,000 worth of his footage.
Yeah.
And what it was is that he put all of his stuff into his videos folder.
Yeah.
And granted, this is stupid, but he did everything into his videos folder, and then when he cleaned up the cache, it deleted not just the video files that were in that folder that were associated with that project, but all of them.
Yeah.
And so he lost it all, and he didn't have a backup.
Yeah.
So partially, you're dumb. Partially, Adobe fucks up. So that's the example right there. You never know what bug is going to be out there that'll delete your shit, and if you don't have a backup, that's on you.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, yeah, $250,000 he's suing for. I don't know if they settled or whatever, and that's fine. You got your money back. You get money back, but you still don't get that footage back.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot nowadays. There's a lot of like solutions. I forget, one's called maybe like Backblaze or something.
Okay.
That will, like, you set a particular drive. You download like the software or whatever. You set a particular drive, and when you're online, whenever you're online, the software connects to the internet.
Yeah.
And transfers your shit, like your new stuff, to the cloud.
Yeah.
And it's a really cheap service.
Yeah.
But the way they sort of price it is, I think it might even be free. And then when you need the files, they charge you for the files.
That's not a bad idea.
But that's an interesting thing that's like happening. But again, I wouldn't necessarily trust having everything in the cloud. Only, obviously, you don't want everything to only be in the cloud.
You know what? Here, I just had an idea. Tell me if you think this would work. So we have, for those who don't know, most of GoDaddy's, like, most of their plans are unlimited storage, right?
Yeah.
Could you just... So I have super fast internet at home. I have 100 megabits per second, right?
Yeah.
I can upload shit blazing fast. Mm-hmm. We have an 8 terabyte drive here that is filled with all of our stuff.
Yeah. Can we just make like a website?
No, not even a website. Can we just, on our FTP, you can put any folder you want. Can we just put a folder in there? Because we're not going to be getting it every time. Could we... Because a lot of places like Amazon's cold storage is considered you're not going to access it that much. It's not fast. It's if you want to get it, it's like, okay, well, you know that it'll take 2 days to download.
Right.
And it's their cheapest option. We won't need this footage that much, and if somebody asks us to do it, we give them a time frame that will allow us to download it.
I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Why haven't we done this?
Yeah. My only thought would be, and I don't know how this works because I'm not super smart in the ways of the internet.
Yeah.
But does the amount of junk that you have on your plant, like your server,
slow everything down?
Slow the rest of it down. Even though like no one's going to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does a full website server...
Because it's, we're on shared servers anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other junk on there from other people, so it probably wouldn't matter that much. But if we had like 100 terabytes of stuff, I wonder if that would make a difference.
Well, all I'm seeing here, so, why is my website so slow? 10 reasons. Server performance. That's just like
the type
of server. Server location, lots of traffic, extra large images that people are loading, code density, text graphics, too many file requests, too many plugins, unnecessary redirects, and an outdated CMS. It says nothing about it's full.
I wonder if it could be full.
I will have a discussion with GoDaddy if they give me if it's like, hey, this is how much, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it says unlimited.
Yeah, so why are you like coming at me?
That's interesting.
Oh man, I just might have had a beautiful idea here. Wow.
I wonder if we could. Well, my only thought would be that it would be a pain to, like, how do you hook it up automatically?
I bet you could. I bet you could do a Dropbox, your own Dropbox.
You could do that.
But the problem is that to do that, you'd have to have those files on a hard drive. You know what I mean? You'd have to have a physical version. I'm going to take this 8 terabyte that we have here with a bunch of our projects.
Yeah,
and
that
just
we never need.
Yeah, that we don't need. You never know.
Yeah.
And just upload it as another backup, because that's our only backup on that 8 terabyte.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this. We'll keep you guys posted on what's going on with that.
Figure that out.
Yeah. But so storage is huge, and always make sure you have backups, because you never know when it's just going to go to shit.
Yeah.
And then you're screwed.
And I think lastly, we
really went into the deep hole here.
I know we did. We should discuss how long one should expect a computer to last. As
a Mac, 5 years, because you can't upgrade it. The reason I like PCs so much better than Macs is because you can easily upgrade it. You can pop in, like, our processors, our Xeons will be great, and we'll have to update the memory a little bit later when things get more memory intensive, and maybe the graphics card. But I think this computer could go for another 5 years and be fine.
Yeah.
It just depends. If you have things that allow you to upgrade them and upgrade pieces at a time as new technology comes out, as long as it's compatible, you could probably go 5-10 years. I mean, how old is my laptop? I got it. It's about the same age as yours.
Yeah. I don't know. It was old when I got mine used.
I got mine used too, and it's fine. And I had no problems with it.
Well, I'm wondering, let's say someone right now buys the top of the line MacBook Pro, right? Mm-hmm. How long do you think before that starts lagging? Maybe 4 or 5 years. Yeah. It depends on if they all of a sudden get the MacBook Pro and then jump to like 4K. It could start lagging. Yeah. It depends on a lot of things, but I would say about 4 or 5 years, you're probably going to get some good stuff out of it, and then you'll just have to toss it because it's a Mac. Yeah.
Like, we can upgrade our...
Sell it to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Sell it to somebody who's a student or something like that. I mean, it's just... Man.
Yep. Well, I think that's it.
Wow. That was so nerdy, guys. I apologize.
That was real nerdy.
Sorry. How long was that?
Well, we're sitting at like an hour 20 right now, but that's with some pre-roll.
Sorry, guys. Wow.
BS.
Like I said before, I was a computer science major before I switched to film, and so I nerd out pretty hard on computers. My nerd's showing.
Well, let's nerd out on some other stuff.
Oh my God, the more fun stuff.
What's cool?
All right, what do you got?
What's cool? Let's see. The first one I saw was Small HD is releasing their Focus 7 monitor that's based on the very popular Focus 5, which is sort of their DSLR touchscreen. It's like totally touchscreen. There's no buttons on it.
Oh, wow.
And it was made originally for like DSLRs. It has like a cool little bracket on it that you just put into the cold shoe or hot shoe.
Not bad.
And now they have the 7-inch that, is if you need, I don't know, a huge 7-inch monitor on top of your DSLR.
I don't know if I could do 7 inches. I mean,
it's weird. Yeah. I think, I think the 5 is cool. It's kind of the perfect size. And, they're both HDMI only. So they're kind of cool. And I think they're both, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the 7 is more. Actually, let me look right now. But I know the 5 was 720 resolution.
Oh.
And yeah, the 7 is also is 1920 by 1200. So yeah. So that's full HD, but the Focus 5 is 720.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, you'll be able to focus on it. You'll be able to do all that stuff. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's there for. It's not supposed to be your,
Yeah, and these are like, they're not cheap, but cheaper for small HD. Like the Focus
for small HD, yeah.
The Focus 7 is only $700.
Yeah. Compared
to their other stuff, which is like a couple thousand.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. That sounds pretty cool. I got USB 4 they just announced. So, Thunderbolt and USB 4 keep fighting with each other. It's the same type of connection as Thunderbolt 3, but it has better speeds. So Thunderbolt 3 is 30 gigabits per second, while USB 4 is 40. Alex said we'd be nerding out, so here we go. It'll give more power over charging, fast enough for the data transfer for 2 4K displays from one port.
Woo.
Or one 5K display. So they're already talking 5K displays. And the ports, the plugs are very similar to Thunderbolt. I think they're exactly the same as Thunderbolt 3. So you'll be able to use the same plugs. It just, you won't have the speed of Thunderbolt. If you use a Thunderbolt 3 device, you won't have the same speed as USB 4. But things are slowly starting to come together and be very cross-compatible, which is very strange for USB.
Yeah.
So yeah,
nice.
I'm looking forward to USB 4. We'll see when that comes out.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw the Razer MC, their new sort of 1x1 panels that are full RGBW panels that are kind of like Light Panels Gemini or those Lupo panels, or even the Sky Panel.
Yeah.
Like competitors.
But cheaper, right?
They're cheaper. Much, much cheaper.
Yeah.
They have like the style. They look like what you would expect a 1x1 panel, like even like the cheaper ones, they look like that. I mean, they have like a little battery plate on the back so you can battery power them. They have a little display so you can fine tune it, and they have preset buttons and stuff like that. And little knobs, obviously. But they claim a really high, color accuracy, which is nice, and decent, brightness and stuff like that. But they are much cheaper than the Sky panels. For example, the 1x1. They have multiple sizes too, by the way. So they have kind of like a wider 1x2 looking size. Is only $699.
Okay.
The wider one is $899, and then the one that I believe is just like brighter and all that is $1,200 or $1,300. I mean, compared to the Sky Panel, which is like minimum of like $4,000.
Yeah, you know what? It's actually funny that you found this because our friend Mitch
yeah, that's right.
hit us up and asked for a lighting kit that was like, how much was it? Under $3,000?
Under $3,000.
So you could get 3 of these lights, Mitch, and that's your interview kit right there. As long as you're not, you might be able to pull it off if you are shooting your interviewer. But if you're just shooting an interviewee subject, this should do the trick. 3 of these lights.
Well, even if you're you might be cutting it close, I guess.
Yeah,
if you're trying to do multiple, but at $699, you could maybe stretch it and get 4.
Ooh, you're going over his 3,000.
I know, but it's close.
Suck it up, Mitch.
Close.
Mitch, just splurge a little. Sell some old baseball cards or something.
The 4 would be for, if you're trying to shoot 2 people at the same time.
Yeah, but this might be it, Mitch. Check out the razors. Look for the link in our show notes. So, that might be your small LED kit that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I got the REWVR1S wireless video receiver. RE teamed up with Vitek, who owns Teradek and Paralink, and made their WVR1 smaller and lighter. It has a range of 500 feet, and 4 receivers can hook up to 1 transmitter. So, me and Alex, we're talking as we're selling our equipment. We're going to sell our Paralink wireless video set, and we want to upgrade that. And this might be actually an option. Ari's stuff is pretty reliable. The one thing that we didn't like about the Paralinks is that we heard a lot of times it drops, drops the connection, and you have to reconnect it and all that, and it sucks. And
that's true for the Teradek bolts, all that stuff. I mean, the more you have running, I was working on a project where they had, each camera had it, and there were 4 or 5 cameras, and they had like a tree that they had built of all the receivers, with all the big antennas to try to make sure that it wouldn't happen, but they had to restart every time.
Sucks. So, I haven't done too much looking into the RE wireless video system. I think we might now as we're looking for upgrading ours. I would say that would be something to look into. I don't know if it has price, but RE is just expect to pay a lot for RE stuff.
Yep.
I'm just going to tell you that right now. Alex just brought up the Sky Panels. There you go. That's how much.
No, they're expensive.
It's just expensive. All of RE stuff is expensive, but from that you get some quality and some good build. I think it's an aluminum body on these wireless receivers rather than the plastic stuff that sometimes Paralinks and Teradek can use.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. What else you got?
I just saw the Sony Xperia 1.
What is that?
Have you heard about that?
What is that?
It's a smartphone that uses Cinealta technology inside. It is the first 4K OLED smartphone screen. Which is interesting.
That's very interesting.
It's a 21:9 cinema wide display that also can show HDR images.
Yeah. Okay.
It has Dolby Atmos sound.
All right.
Built in.
Wow.
And it was designed with input from the Sony Cinealta professionals, So they have a lot of interesting things. First of all, it has like 3 lenses.
Of course.
16 millimeter, 26, and a 52.
Yeah, these smartphones are starting to come out with multiple lenses, but go ahead, keep going.
They're all built in. They're not like removable lenses, but you got the 3 lenses going on the single camera. So you can get your sort of like wide angle, your middle, and your telephoto action going on. Then it also has 10-bit color.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
You know what's so funny is that we just got done talking about color correcting and all that and be like, what, most people are going to look at this stuff on their cell phone and that's shit.
Yeah.
Not this one.
I know.
This one's pretty nice.
This one's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. So, yeah, you got 10-bit color. It's got the world's first eye autofocus. So instead of tracking faces, it tracks eyes. so it gets the eyes in focus, which is actually a problem.
Yeah.
With face tracking stuff
true.
because it's not detecting the accurate focus for focusing eyes.
Interesting. And so they're also sharing all that eye data with the Big Brother.
Yeah, probably the TV show. I don't know why they want it, but whatever. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, and it can shoot 4K HDR, 24 frames a second.
Jeez, seems pretty ball. It seems like what the red phone should have been.
Yeah, it's not expandable like that one was trying to be, and all that stuff. But it has a lot of interesting sort of like filmmakery features.
Yeah,
and the other thing is it has some type of like interesting hybrid stabilization system inside that they call optical steady shot.
God,
that uses like an algorithm to make it seem like smooth and whatnot.
Good Lord.
I don't know. I'm interested to see how it works and
yeah, no, definitely.
And how it actually performs as a phone.
That'd be amazing if it's like this awesome camera and it just drops calls left and right.
I know. Well,
I don't know how to text.
That's like that's my thing about this is why make it a phone even? Like I would almost buy that separately as just like a little pocket camera.
Well, not only that, but you throw that on like all those one-handed stabilizers that they have out there, those gimbals out there.
Yeah.
And you have a pretty damn good camera on a gimbal.
And then it's like you don't even need to worry about having like the latest steez when it comes to like phones.
Why even make this
why
a
even
phone?
bother?
Why make this a phone?
But whatever. I mean, hey, we'll see how it goes.
All right.
See how it goes.
I mean, it sounds cool, but jeez.
Yeah.
I got the Blackmagic Pro Pocket Cinema camera, the 4K version, is finally getting Blackmagic's RAW.
Ooh.
So those people who really love the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K, you're going to get the RAW codec support. So you can start shooting in RAW.
That's pretty cool.
And they can record over 2 hours of the RAW footage in 4K. So get your updates on, guys. Go get that. That seems pretty cool. I'm not the biggest fan of the Blackmagic cameras, but yeah, I mean, some people really like them. So go for it. Go for it.
They're a good affordable option. Speaking of Blackmagic, the company announced the Ursa Mini Pro G2, which is their Generation 2, obviously, Ursa Mini Pro camera, which has, it looks almost identical.
As we were talking about Blackmagic cameras, and they're not great, but...
Yeah. It has a new sensor that's
Yeah.
Super 35 4.6K sensor.
Okay.
They claim 15 stops of dynamic range.
What's with the they claim?
Well, all camera companies claim a certain amount, but it's never quite right. And then, let's see, you can shoot up to 300 frames per second.
Oh, holy
which is
shit.
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. At 1080.
And then it supports Blackmagic RAW,
No.
their new thing. And then also it has a USB-C expansion port for direct recording to external discs.
That's pretty cool.
That's interesting.
Now, that's pretty cool. I'm on board with that. I mean, even more exciting, it's $6,000.
Right. That's the
crazy.
thing is it's got a lot of features.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, and it's affordable. It's not bad. I personally just cannot stand this shouldn't matter
Yeah.
when it comes to like purchasing a camera. Like, who cares how it looks? Mm-hmm. But to me, it looks so weird.
It does.
It looks so cheap, I should say, is what it means. It looks like a toy to me. But
Yeah.
it's just all the like switches. It reminds me of like an old camcorder, not like a new cool thing.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't want to have a menu
Customers?
system. Oh, harsh. It's almost like they don't want to have a menu system. They want it all to be like pushable on the outside. And which I think is I'm not a big fan of it's a catch-22 because I'm not a big fan of having all the buttons out there because if something bumps and breaks or you hit something accidentally, I kind of like having to go into a menu to kind of
To get to the
to get
settings.
to the things so you can't accidentally.
Yeah. To me, it's like they're trying to be everything in that the camera, I imagine the way they thought about this was, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
They wanted it to be a camera that would work for people that are used to like ENG style cameras. They want it to be like a broadcasty documentary style camera, but that also is like a cinema camera.
They just wanted it to be everything.
They wanted to try to make it everything, and that's why it has a weird little flip out screen.
Yeah.
It has an eyepiece.
Yeah.
You know, it has all the like knobs and switches and stuff on the side.
Yeah, I'm not sold. I mean, the price is great.
It looks like it has a huge tally light on the viewfinder too.
Tell me that's not. Let's see.
It probably is.
Oh no. Why?
Oh, it does have an interchangeable lens mount, which is nice.
That's cool. I do like that. But is that really a tally light? Don't tell me that's a tally light. Oh my gosh.
It looks like it would be a great documentary, like a reality camera. It's got the XLRs, the input, and you can like adjust all the audio. I mean, it basically is a camcorder.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And
it's like a C300 competitor, but like cheaper than a C300 Mark II. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Again, not a huge fan of Blackmagic cameras. I love their other stuff, but hey.
Yeah, I feel like they're getting better. The problem that I had with Blackmagic cameras is the color shift, as we were talking about, color correction and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a distinct magenta issue with Blackmagic cameras.
Yeah.
And it's been across the board. Even in, like, I saw footage from a feature that used the Blackmagic cameras, and I had that guy from like the Cockblockers movie in it. I forget his name, but he's really funny. So it was like a real movie, but it had the same weird color stuff going on, and I just couldn't. I don't know.
And which like you'd think they could change in like post, but
yeah, and so maybe they liked it. I don't know. I don't know.
Question mark?
Anyway,
yeah,
that's a personal preference.
Yeah. So we nerded out too much. Let's end this thing because it is on too long. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. You can get the show notes for this episode by visiting nobudgetfilmmaking.com/episode 44.
And don't forget to hop on over to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, give us a 5-star rating if you feel so inclined.
Sweet. If you have any filmmaking questions, like Mitch, ask away in the comments section and we'll try to answer them. Or you can also hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or
anywhere.
Just hit us up. We'll try and answer.
Also, don't forget to head on over to fearlessfilmmakers.com to join our growing community of filmmakers. And hey, you could even ask us a question there.
Yeah, do it. Go, guys. Go. What are you still doing here? Go.
All right.
Later.
Later.